important. Yeah, it's not the one that is most important. It's the follower, and then the second follower
Mhm.
triggers something within the community or the bystanders, and then that is how things gets going. That really intrigued me. And then
Mhm.
when I sent it to Vishnu, Vishnu told me that this is something that he has as part of their educational
Oh yeah.
educational thing. So I was even more encouraged when I heard that, because if this is what Vishnu uses to teach, then I'm sure he would have a lot of pertinent questions and directions that he can give us. And I mean, it's unfortunate that it's not there aren't more people here, but I think what is more important is that we get started, you
Oh
know,
yeah. Yeah.
and we can always recap or so on. Vishnu, feel free to chime in
You know,
anytime.
yeah. The funny thing before I have to make this observation.
Mhm.
There's a striking parallel between that video and what's happening right here with this series. So, so let's see
you,
how we move forward. Yeah.
you care to elaborate on that?
No, I mean it's just a few of us.
Oh, right.
We're trying to start a movement. It's just a few
Yeah.
of us. Just like the video.
And somebody has to be the first not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I go ahead and share the video?
Yeah. Why not?
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. See, it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is over-glorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
Awesome.
Very awesome.
Welcome, Janelle.
Janelle is on. Welcome, Janelle. Yeah, so again, as I said earlier, that that video clip really inspired and really moved me and helped me to shift my thinking. And what I found interesting about this is that some people do this naturally, where they are not caught up in being the leader. They don't mind following. And I've always believed that unless you can be a good follower, you can't be a good leader. But one of the things I get from this, the lessons I learned from this, is how overglorified the leader is, or being a leader is. It is okay to be a follower. As a matter of fact, it is very, very important to be able to follow, because your following triggers a chain reaction of events that can lead into a movement. Vishnu?
I think the thing that always sticks out to me with this particular video, every time I watch it, is the amount of faith it takes to be that forced follower. Because leaders, they can sometimes be mistaken for crazy persons, right? Because the vision they have in their mind is so absolutely clear that there's almost nothing stopping them from pursuing it. Many of the barriers that the leader faces are external. So it could be family, it could be friends, it could be the job, it could be all that. But internally, they know that they have a bigger purpose. And once that tipping point is reached, when they've made that decision that, regardless of what happens in my life, this is something I want to experience, this is something I want to realize or materialize, they'll go all out. And Mahatma Gandhi has had a saying that, first they laugh at you, right? Then they ridicule you, and finally they join you, and then you win. And I think it's very interesting when a follower, sometimes they jump in fast, sometimes they themselves take the time to observe you. They can be observing you for a minute or two, like in this video, a couple of hours. They could be observing you for weeks or years before they jump in. And what happens then is that people start thinking, well, there must be something good here, right? It can't be just the two of them. And we normally in management, we use the innovation diffusion cycle. So something new happens, then you need some innovators, some people who really jump on very, very early on in the cycle, then some early adopters. And then we saw this video as an excellent example of where the late adopters, and then the late majority, and then the laggards, right? Everybody's dancing. We're going to look silly if we don't dance, right? Everybody switched to Apple. We're going to look silly if we don't switch to Apple, right? So it's very interesting, and that's what stands out. The second and the third person who join in really turn it into a movement.
Hey guys, good night.
Good night.
I heard the Apple part. I know Eldon and I are fans of Apple, so that's the only piece I just heard. Just forgive me. I heard something with Apple.
And Selwyn too. Yeah.
And Selwyn too. Android users are in
No, Selwyn had an Android phone when I saw him. I don't know about.
Oh, you're talking about the phone. Oh, okay. Yeah. I still have my Android phone.
Oh, all right. You have a Mac. All right. No. I apologize, Selwyn. I remember your fancy setup at your desk.
You see, John, we are trying to convert Vishnu.
So Selwyn goes both ways.
I'm an equal opportunity big guy. That's
what we'll say. That's what the record will say.
Equal opportunity. Well, Vishnu, a question I want to ask you about the first follower. The second, sorry. What do you think triggers that?
Well, I find that it's usually an urge that they've had for a long time. I think that second follower probably has thinking about doing that dance or going down that path for a very long time. And in many cases, his or her environment, in this case it's a him, didn't allow him that, right? Because we all kind of start off life as blank slates. And then as soon as we started getting programmed, as soon as we started to be able to walk, some of us had protective parents. And if we did something that just looked a little bit risky, someone grabbed us and put us to sit down or strapped us up in something and said, sit here, you're gonna hurt yourself. And this happens more and more. I remember growing up. Now I see, when I see a child on a bicycle, it looks like they're ready to go fight in the war with the amount of gear that they have on. Back in the days, you have a brief on, that's good enough. If you're very young, you just jump on the bike and you go, right? And that's how we learned how to really manage ourselves and what pain feels like, how to avoid pain by actually experiencing it. I think so many people now are, bottled up in that cocoon, and they're so fearful of testing all these ideas that they have, and there's no one around them to encourage them. So I think that second follower really got the opportunity to say, hey, I finally found my tribe. I finally found the people who are doing what I've been thinking about for a while. And then to be brave enough to say, okay, great, this might be my only chance, my one and only chance to actually experience this thing that I've been talking about for such a long time. So that's what I see in that second follower.
I know there's I read somewhere there's an Eastern philosophy, perhaps a religion, that practices allowing, that suggests that if you see a child, your child, about to fall, you're really not supposed to stop that child from falling, because you're blocking them from that experience and the chain reaction of experiences that one experience will create. And I think it's a good philosophy. I find even in my own personal life, when I allow certain things to happen, if I may use this word, magic takes place. By allowing the challenges and allowing the disappointments, somehow or the other, it opens the door, makes way for other positive things to happen. I have one interesting example, and some school of thought may call it a coincidence. But I remember when I was in Guyana this last time, and we were planning the event, and Vishnu, you were very helpful with getting the yard weeded and so on, and we were trying to get the billboard up, but there were some arrangements that didn't come through. And the moment I detached from that, arrangement and said, well, it doesn't need to happen the way I expect it to happen, or it doesn't need to happen at all. It opened the door for a number of amazing things to happen. The retreat, in which the retreat was one. And that's because I allowed the disappointment to take place. Vishnu, I'm not seeing you.
Yeah, I'm seeing you. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I allowed that to happen, and it takes courage, right? It takes a lot of courage to allow something that can be perceived as negative, could be perceived as harmful, and I wonder how much of that plays into a situation like the video we saw just now. Here you're the third follower, or you're, possibly the third follower. And are you allowing yourself to be embarrassed? Are you allowing yourself the freedom to just express yourself? I mean, do you have anything to say to that?
Well, I think, at the core, human beings do want to enjoy their life. We are here for a limited amount of time. And, we've been so conditioned, especially by our education system, to follow the rules, show up at a specific time, do a specific amount of work, take our breaks at specific times, and then repeat, rinse and repeat until you hit 55 or 60. Hopefully you have a decent pension, and then you know the rest. But the problem with that is that more and more people are getting exposed. It was easy when the world seemed to be the US seemed to be so far away. I remember, in the 80s, when somebody goes to the US, it seemed like, hey, they've gone to the other side of the universe. Now it's, I think if any one of us wanted to be there in 4 hours, 4.5 hours, we could be sitting with you, and with technology, we're having a conversation that, 20, 30 years ago was not possible in this format. So I think people do want to experience something beyond the norm, and leaders and fast followers give them that opportunity to do so. And even if it's for a moment, right? How long could that third follower, that second follower, have really gone on with nothing happening? He would have enjoyed himself. Some people would have given him some silly stares and then would have gone back to the norm. But in this case, when people see other people enjoying what they're doing, it creates a natural attraction. Everybody wants to feel that when they see people are reaping the fruits of their activities and their efforts, people want it. And I think that by itself creates a magnetism that starts drawing other people. And just to go back to your example of that, what could be almost like an initial disappointment of things not going the way you wanted it to. I experience that every so often. I keep my mind really on the positive and the direction that I would like to go to. But from time to time, things do happen in my life that I think, hey, why is this? Why isn't it going the way I would like it to go? What's wrong with the way? What is wrong with something I did? Is it something I did? What was my responsibility here? And what I've learned, and I think I'm still learning from this because it still happens. Just the past couple of days, I had 2 events that happened that I thought, this was uncalled for, unnecessary. What did I do to cause this in my life? And I just had to reflect again. And this time it was easy for me. It took minutes, I would say minutes, maybe a half an hour for me to let go of that. Whereas in the past, I could actually sit and think about that for hours, and maybe a day, 2 days, even a week, it would be on my mind. This time it took minutes to say, well, there must be something really good around the corner. Really, really good around the corner for the universe or energy or God or this eternal energy that has been feeding all of us to do this, right? And what happens and what I've learned is that what you focus on multiplies. So if you keep focusing on what went wrong, what went negative, you'll see the next negative thing and the next negative thing and the next negative thing, and your brain starts blending it up. Letting go of it and thinking, hey, wait, this is so fantastic. This means something fun, really good is around the corner. And I opened the email, and the 2 negative things that happened, 2 things happened that are 10 times as positive than the negative things. And some conversations happened there, and that blossomed out in a very short amount of time, just because of focus and what we focus on. So I think you did that as well. It was a tough situation at that point in time. It was something that you had planned, but being able to make peace with it and let go and say, okay, great. It allows you to not focus on this and, the billboard in this case. And guess what opened up? I think what opened up was even bigger than the billboard. And so we all experience this. And I think the lesson is when something negative happens, and again, nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. The worst thing in the world could happen, and it is you who have to give it that meaning of it being the worst thing, right? And there are many stories about this. I'd love to be able to go into a story on this, but sometimes we think this is a bad thing, when really it turns out to be the best thing ever. If it wasn't for this negative thing happening, I couldn't have been at this positive place that I'm at right now. So appreciating that these things do happen, and they happen for a reason. They happen for you. I'd love to think about life like that. I don't like to think about things happening to me. I like to think about things happening for me. So whatever is happening, I believe it is happening for me. And the faster I can see it that way, right? Because all of us on the call, there are all 9 of us. There are things that have happened in our past. I work with people on a really deep level, and there's not a normal, I've never met a normal human being. Right? And we all kind of sometimes strive to be this normal or this average, or what is the norm. I work with so many people, I've never met a normal person. All of us have gone through things in our childhood, growing up, with our parents, with our teachers, with family. Bad things have happened to every single one of us. Right? So if there was normal, it's not here. I can pick on anybody right now and ask me, tell me, just give me the thing that really shook you in life. And every one of us has a story here. And this story shaped us. But if it wasn't for that thing that happened to us, we may not have turned out to be the person that we are today. And I think we need to be very grateful for that. And you see, all I've done, right? All I have done for myself is I've closed in that gap. I don't want to wait a year and 2 years and 3 years or even a week to realize that this thing that I can consider bad was really a good thing. Why not realize it 5 minutes after the fact?
Yeah.
Right?
One of the things or exercises I do. Well, there are two exercises that I use. If something bad really happened, that's a fact. I acknowledge it. I ask two questions. Did it happen? So 99.9% of the time it did. So I acknowledge it. And then I ask the most important question, is it happening now? Mm-hmm. And usually it is not happening now, and then I push it away. So I realize that who is really causing the pain is not the person who triggered the pain back then or in the past, but I who am remembering it, right? And going with that, I believe that we spend more time, we suffer more in our interpretations than in reality. You could look at a situation, Vishnu could say, Selwyn, you have a gray beard. And I could get upset and say, what the hell, what's wrong with Vishnu? But then I could laugh and smile and say, well, that's Vishnu's sense of humor and so on. So you see, and we move on. So a lot of times our interpretations anchor us to pain and suffering. And it's interesting that we are on this topic. We start off talking about leadership and the follower, and I want to arc back to that. I mean, it's all related, and this is a great anecdote you give, Vishnu, because I think it opens up the floor for people to recognize that their challenges and their problems are not unique, and that it's normal for them. That's the paradox. There's no normal person, but it is normal to have problems and pain and challenges. And one last point, and then I open up the floor. One of the things that I do, I came up with this theory called oases of energy. And an oasis of energy to me is any person that is very positive, that whatever time I call them, they always have something positive, something uplifting to say. It could be the memory of a good song. It could be a memory of a good moment. Why? Because I have convinced myself that the best place to be is at equilibrium, at peace. So if I am upset, I'm angry or something, I'm off balance, I go to these various oases of energy to recharge myself and restore that balance, because to make a decision when you're off balance could be disastrous. And Vishnu, you teach this thing. So I'm preaching to the choir here.
But I think you use some words there, and I see most of the people on the call here, most of my team on the call here, they are entrepreneurs, and I think this was also something I had to learn, that as an entrepreneur we get paid for solving problems. Mm-hmm. Right? If there was no problem, if there was not an IT problem or a website, marketing problem or, clothing problem, we did not have a business, right? Because we have to go solve it. And sometimes we've been trained to run away from the fire, right? We've been trained to run away from the problems. We as entrepreneurs actually have to run towards them in order to be able to solve these problems. And I think it was also good to listen to ourselves when we do get frustrated by these problems, because it does happen. It could be overwhelming. It could be a lot more than we sign up for. To just realize that, the bigger the problem, the bigger the reward. People who solve very small problems, their rewards are usually also very small. So whatever we signed up for, we do have to realize that there's a reason why we chose it, right? We have the belief that we can solve that problem. Then whatever frustration comes your way, the way I've seen frustration and stress and all of that, it means that if this thing is so frustrating to solve, so difficult, so hard, it has so many issues, guess how many people are not solving this? Right? So I'm actually really happy when I can find really difficult problems because it just means that the pool gets so much smaller. Because most people don't take the chance to pursue anything that is that difficult because we've been programmed. Right? Your parents told you get a safe job, get the education, get the safe job, don't go do nothing crazy, stick to the job. Right? And even in entrepreneurship, I'm sure all of us around the room here have been told, hey, why are you taking this risk? Why you spend your money? Why you didn't buy this thing? Why you do instead of what we really wanted to do? And again, seeing yourself as a problem solver, I think is key. And Selwyn, what's your most valuable asset? You're mute at the moment.
I would say communication. I enjoy communicating with people, which is very ironic because many years ago when I worked for Timing and I did my Myers-Briggs, I was diagnosed as both left and right, highly developed, both creative and technical, and an introvert. And when I tell people this, like, yeah, right, you're pulling my legs. But if you really truly observe me, you'll see me in a corner. My family will tell you that you leave me alone by myself. So I make an extra effort to be more extroverted. But I find though that when I challenge myself in that way, some amazing things happen because I'm able to touch people in ways that I would not have imagined. And it's usually after the experience, I'm like, did this happen? How did this happen? And it speaks volume for challenging yourself and daring to go into arenas that are uncomfortable for you. And it has happened to me with people of all backgrounds, whether someone working at the United Nations is an ambassador, so on. Sometimes I'm in the midst of I'll give you an example. This stays among us. I am meeting with the UN representative. The meeting is over, time to leave. What did Selwyn ask her? Do you have a number for a cab? And she said, Selwyn, I'm a little privileged. Hold on, I'm a little privileged, right? I don't, and she didn't say it in any disdainful way. She was not offended by it. We both laughed. And she got an assistant to get an aid. I remember relating this conversation to one of my best friends. He says, only you would do something like that. But I was comfortable in myself and I was comfortable in my skin. I was comfortable in the space. And there is something that happens to me when I'm communicating with people or certain people. And I think if I may attempt to diagnose it or describe it, it's authenticity, right? If you're authentic in yourself and in your space, then that communication magic happens.
You see, if you are a normal person, Selwyn, what does a normal person say that their most valuable asset is? Because your valuable asset of authenticity and communication, this is seeing a bit beyond what a normal person would say. If I stop them on the road and say, hey guy, what's your most valuable asset? What do you think a normal person would say?
I have no idea.
Hypothetical or normal person. So guys on the call, what do you think the answer would be when we were to ask someone, what's your most valuable asset? What would someone here say?
Let's call it easy.
I think they might allude to some skill or something that they have.
Right, so it could be a skill. What else do they consider assets?
I guess some people might consider material.
So materials, they might say their house or their business. Yeah.
I agree.
Right, or their bank account. Janelle, what do you think they would say?
I don't know. Some people might say the network because your network is your net worth.
Right. So, the way I look at it is that we can actually lose our network. I think, Selwyn, when you went to the US, I don't know if you already had a pre-existing network there, but you may have lost some of the network here. So you lost it here, you built it back over there. Your house, we could lose our house today. We could get back our house in the future. Your spouse, not that anybody should lose their spouse, But guess what? There are more spouses out there in the world. If you do, that's supposed to be a joke. You guys are so serious.
I was laughing.
However, if you think about it, the most valuable asset is actually your time. Right? Because the time that you invest somewhere, you can't get it back. This hour that we're investing together, we can't ever go back to Tuesday, 1st of June, 7 p.m., right? That's gone. We can't make it again. So seeing our time, our energy, and in some cases our money, because we love to think about, we think about money, everything has a price tag to it that we need to pay. So money is one that comes up a lot. But what would you rather do? Spend your money or invest your money? John, what do you like to do? Spend or invest?
Invest.
Why invest?
To open up other opportunities and to make more down the line.
Very good. To get a return on that investment, right? So every dollar you
That's right.
send out there can get you more. I would, if there's probably a message I can leave from this part of it, it would be to think about your time like you think about money. And instead of spending time, because I hear it a lot, I spend time with this one, spend time with that one. Invest that time, because if I'm here right now, I'm here as an investment. I want that whatever I share returns to you, returns to me, and gets bigger and bigger. And a lot of times I hear, especially when people talk about their elders, I spend some time with them, I spend some time with the family. What's the return? What's the return from that? How did you impact them positively? How did they impact you positively? What's going to come out of this? And I think that's one mindset that when I change that, I really, whatever I do, I want it to be very valuable. I want to be there 100%. I want to give 100%. Because right now, if I don't give 100%, right? If I give 80%, I can't come back tomorrow and give you 120, right? The most I can give you tomorrow is 100 again, right? So whatever we're pursuing, that's why it's so important that we really are clear on what we would love to have in our lives. And once you pursue it, it's 100% participation. You show up. Jim Rohn said, when you're at the beach, be at the beach. Don't be thinking about the office. When you're at the office, be at the office. Don't be thinking about the beach, or else you're not giving either one the attention that it deserves, right? You're with your family, be with your family 100%. Don't be thinking about the assignment or the job or the client or the beach, right? And I found, and I practice this a lot. I have to remind myself, it's not that I never slip below the line and always follow these principles. Whenever I do slip, I just have to remind myself, okay, what's important here? What are you seeking to achieve? How can you be of value with whatever you're doing now? And it even comes, sometimes people might also say, well, you might always be that driven. But similarly, when I take care of myself, when I go to the interior, when I go take a massage, when I lie down in the pool, I'm 100% taking care of myself with the same intensity. Because you may see me here now and you see me 100% giving you whatever I can give you tonight. I do the same for myself when I'm by myself as well. So I think sometimes people go away with the idea, well, maybe Vishnu never rests. Maybe Vishnu never does this. Maybe he doesn't take care of himself. So I don't want to leave you with that image as well. I want you to also understand, give yourself 100% as well, because you deserve it as well. And so I hope that helps, because I find that when we think about spending, invest everything you can, your time, your energy, your money. When you think about it like that, you get so much more out of everything you do.
Right.
Yeah, just to build on that, while we just going to jump in, what you mentioned there, based on what Jim Rohn said, if you're at the beach, be at the beach. This is like a recent realization that I had, where I'm sure we all can relate to being paralyzed by a whole bunch of responsibilities, especially when they clutter your mind and then they unpack simultaneously in your brain and you don't know where to start. And so I've been, some time back, I've been battling with that, because these things just creep up on you given all the various developments in your life. And I was close to rock bottom, where I was like, okay, well, I can't move in any direction because it's just chaos. It's just noisy. So I decided to just unpack all of that. And at that moment, I realized that, you know, your brain, your mental makeup, you gotta take time to understand how you actually view your world, how you make those connections, and identify that, and identify yourself as an instrument. And I use the term instrument on purpose because it's almost as if we have to understand how to work this thing in order to get the most out of it. So what I realize is that my brain, the way it's wired, I'm really good at big picture stuff. I'm really good at parallel processing. But when it comes to procedural, detail-oriented things, it takes a little bit more effort. So that's when I realized that I can't keep too many things up in my head. And I started to use lists religiously. So I unpacked everything into a list, and then I said, I'm going to take one thing from the list and at one item at a time, and just use that and apply that discipline and unpack it, and then move forward. And then my productivity shot through the roof. So in essence, I was letting myself do one thing at a time, and only that thing, and just keeping that laser focus. And then I was shifting to the next item on the list and moving forward that way. And that helped tremendously under the circumstances. So I wanted to bring that up based on what you shared. And the main takeaway from that for me is that you got to learn it on, you pretty much have to observe yourself to understand how you make connections, how you process information, and then use that understanding to be able to rework your rituals, your methods to adapt to actually coincide with that, so that you can, you know, move through the world with as much efficiency as possible. Yeah.
I think an additional layer to that is, you know, somehow because of my profession, I always like to also bring it back to the numbers, because all of us, our lifestyles, our dreams, the people we want to take care of, it costs a certain amount of money. If you actually were to sit, you can work it out how much it would cost. And I would usually ask people, do you want to make this certain amount of money? And you would be surprised for how many people in this country, it's somewhere between $500,000 to $1 million a month, will actually do everything they want. It covers travel, it covers a mortgage, it covers, right? And then I ask them, do you want to use the most amount of hours to get that done, or the least amount of hours to get that done? Guess what? The answer is always the least amount. So we then actually have to go on the hunt to see what is their most valuable skill. What is the one skill or the two skills, maybe three, I don't recommend three, but the one or two things that they could actually do that could generate this total that they're looking for in the least amount of hours. And I think that really wakes people up, because there are so many talented people busy sweeping the floor, taking away the job of a cleaner, busy answering their phone, taking away the job of a receptionist, busy driving a vehicle up and down, taking away the job of a driver, right? Busy doing administration, taking the job away from an administrator or a graphic artist, or et cetera, et cetera. Is that your greatest talent? Because when you're really working in your greatest talent, you could provide jobs for so many levels, for so many people who can then have a really good life because you are actually doing your greatest talent. And again, by doing your greatest talent, it actually allows you to have that life that you're actually seeking. Because there are too many people, they do almost everything, and it feels like they work so hard, and they always stretch, and they're always close to burnout. And they're still not making the amount of money that would take care of the kids and the wife and the family and the mother and the father and the grandfather and travel. And I find that very, very painful, right? Because you work so hard, you work so hard, you work so hard, and still, right? Whereas the formula is really the reverse. You actually do have to take some time, analyze what it is, and then become almost superhuman in that single thing. Because I haven't found the superhuman in 100 things. You can find superhumans in one, maybe two skills. I've never found more than two skills, right? And when you get that good there, people come to you for that. I always tell people, please don't look at anybody as perfect. When people come to me, you're coming to me for this one thing. I know I can help you with this one thing. If you get the second thing, it's a bonus. But be guaranteed that is one thing I'll be able to help you out with. And I think that is something that if the earlier we realize it, I realized it maybe 10 years ago. I wish I had realized it a lot earlier, because I also thought I was superhuman. I could do every single thing. And that's the problem with talented people, right? The biggest problem with talented people, everyone on this call here, is that you can do almost everything better than anybody else. If you pick up a broom right now, I guarantee you'll sweep better than your maid. If you go to drive a vehicle, I guarantee you drive better than a driver. If you had to pick up your own phone and answer it, you'll do it better than a receptionist. That's the problem with us. We can do almost everything better than the people who would do it on a day-to-day basis. And letting go of that, I think that is, that is the hard part. Saying that, okay, I'll train you. I know I can do it up to a 9 or a 10. What does the market demand? The market demands a 7. My job is to get you to 8 so that I can move on. You'll get up to 9 in your own time, as this is the only thing you specialize in. Right? But I found that that is the toughest thing with talented people. We can do everything fantastically well. And especially if we're competitive, it's even worse. Because we'll start at 5 in the morning, I will go till 1 at midnight, because we can do it, and that harms us. I think it harms us a lot as well, as our entire day. And then we proudly hang the label of busy, like a big chain with busy here, right? And I don't want anybody to be busier. Be productive, right? Be productive.
What I would add to that is I think a lot of people tend to overthink things too much. And as a result of that, you limit yourself, you limit the opportunities, you limit the people that would gravitate towards you. Vishnu, to your point about, letting go of certain things so that others can take up those responsibilities. I found myself, when I was building the team, there are things that I do great that they obviously won't do it the way I do it. But what you have to do is give them the framework and understand that they will make mistakes. And you have to accept that. It's not easy to accept that. There's certain risks involved in that, like throwing them into the fire in a meeting, or giving them this project to oversee that may have failures, and you might even lose the client. But sometimes you got to really take those hard risks to not just have them develop, but to really see the results, or see the fact that if I actually do it this way, it actually does work. And overall, I was having a conversation with a friend the other day just about, if you look at the most, the Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, these guys ain't got big fancy degrees and everything. They use what they know. They surround themselves with brilliant people, but they use the little that they know, but they learn it all. And that's part of the process. But I find, like, you got some brilliant people, got degrees and PhDs and everything, but they're stuck and they can never start a business, and it's not to knock them, but unfortunately they just think about every single detail. Whereas people like us, I find, if we want to start something up tomorrow, we have a basic framework. We might get the opinions of others around us, but that's pretty much it. I'm going to take the risk. I mean, I ask myself a question a lot with certain things: what do I have to lose, or what do we have to lose? And if it's very short to nothing, then we're going for it. So I think for us, it's easier. I see a lot of this younger generation. This is kind of diving into another angle, but the Gen Z and these younger folks, they got a whole different. They got their chest out, and they think that they have the answers. And I think that is a major concern. Because when you put them, like just the other day, I put somebody in the fire, say, okay, you got all this talk, let's see what you could do. And they messed up. And then, but that is just part of life in terms of humbling you and learning and maturing and growing up. But unfortunately, I think this younger generation is not like us, where we listened more. We were more open to suggestions and open to opinions. And it's a little, going back to the point of giving them the opportunities to do certain things. The question that there are a few that have that humility and the ability to listen, but the consequence, there are a few that don't have it. And so there's a balance, I find, between selecting certain people, or recruiting, quote unquote, and giving them those opportunities. It's a really, you got to really have a balance and a really interesting perspective, I'd say, on that.
And I would say as well that you, I think all of us here are the faces of our companies, the leaders of our companies. And once you get very clear of what you would like your company to be like, your culture, and you're actually living it, because you don't want to be like some of our leaders who say one thing and then they do the completely opposite. It's the reason why we don't respect a lot of our national leaders, because they say one thing and they do completely the opposite. First step is for you to actually do what you say. And that's my simple definition of leadership. Because when you do what you say you will do, once you do that, you're a leader, because then you give people the example to follow. But I think one of the hurdles I see with a lot of leaders is that they don't make themselves visible enough to the outside world. So it becomes very hard to attract like-minded people. The reason that first nut was able to attract the second nut and the third nut is because he was visible. If he was doing that in his room or near the fence or behind the hill, nobody would have seen him. It was being brave enough to show that example in broad open daylight, so that the people who are attracted to that could find you. And I've been lucky to be mentored by some people who are really like that first nut. We're really out there, and I love to get their ideas. They're critical thinkers. They think a lot. So I get attracted, but then I see the courage they have to do so. And what it does as well is that those people have actually attracted me, right? Because that is what I'm looking for. And I think if we are to grow our organizations much faster with people who appreciate the culture and want to be part of the culture, we do have to be out there more. We do have to put out there, because the saying is, you attract who you are. You attract who you are.
That's right.
But in order to attract, you actually have to be out there, right? Or else you're gonna attract whatever they think the name is, or they're gonna, whatever they saw on the, on the profile, right? Or the vacancy. So it's so important. And also what we do is trade testing. We put people through so many hoops that 50% of them drop out. Then we do a lot of trade testing as well. And culture, right? So whilst the person is sitting, we always check. If somebody doesn't come 15 minutes before, then we don't have the interview. We let the maid, the cleaner, intentionally go and start mopping near them to see if they will give the cleaner a nasty look, or if they'll move their stuff as well. We'll send somebody to give them something to drink and listen if they say thank you, or if they just, and the team decides if this portion is going to be part of our culture or not. If we will make it through that, our team is asking them questions. Our team is telling them why they should either work here, what are the pros and cons of working here, right? We did an induction on Monday. When some of them said, hey, and when Vishnu says that we're going on this project, you better buckle up. I said, how you guys can throw me under the bus like that? But it's true, right? They're telling the portion up front, this is what it is like in this organization. So a portion has a choice to jump on the bus and have a fantastic ride, or get off from the beginning. Because the longer we have people who are not part of the culture or against the culture that you're creating, they are harming everybody else who does want to be part of the culture, who does want to move the organization forward. It's almost like a cancer, right? The best thing to do with the cancer is get it out as quickly as possible. And not saying that people are cancers, but some people don't fit into your culture. Don't look at them as, oh, they're so talented, that's why I'm not gonna get rid of them. I have found when I've let go of very talented people, the people half as talented as them step up, and with grit and will and everything, they step up and they deliver. Right? So I've learned that lesson a long time. Get rid of the ones who think that, it is. And I say we help them out. Right? We help them out. Right? We help them out of the organization. We help them find the organization that is better suited to them. And I would sometimes do a reference. When the people call me, I say, this is the portion's pros, this is the cons, this is the way to work with them. But most other organizations don't have the mission that we are on. They don't have the, they're just, I show up, I do my stuff, I go home. We're not that kind of organization, right? So most people who can't make it with us are superstars elsewhere. They're superstars elsewhere.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I gotta hop off right now. Unfortunately, got another meeting, but that's a very important point, Vishnu, that you raised. You got to curate your talent. You got to curate the people that work with you, because if you don't, I think the saying goes, you hire slow and you fire fast, right? That's how it goes. And the other thing in terms of that video, just going before that guy got up and started dancing by his lonesome, there was this mission in his mind, and that mission led the entire movement. And that's another important thing, to really pull people in, to really establish that mission and stick to it consistently. And then the second guy sort of like acted as his lieutenant. So as you got to look for your lieutenants, John, and find them as early as possible, and then they can help seed the entire movement. But yeah, this was awesome. Unfortunately, I gotta hop off, but let's do this again. Definitely. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Alden.
Yeah, take care, Eldon.
Selden, I think you muted you.
Eldon, thank you. Vishnu, before we close off tonight, can you show that video one more time for those who came on late,
Would be
so they have
good
some
if
perspective of
anybody
what
else, yeah, and if anybody else hasn't been able to.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. See, it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers, because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is over-glorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
Very
Awesome.
nice.
Any thoughts, Evie? No? Evie, are you there?
Yeah, she's here. She's listening.
Oh, okay.
I'm here. The first time I saw this video, I was actually with the wildlife program, and it is something that I had mentioned before, even before I'd seen it, that a follower is as important, if not like more important than a leader, in my opinion, because like you can have ideals and you can have a reason for why you're doing something, but then there's something about someone believing in your ideas and validating them and and making you not seem so crazy with what you want to do. That gives you a kind of power and a kind of just that empowerment to go forward with what you're doing and believe in yourself. So I do, it is something that I had embraced for a long time and believed in. And I remember one time at Wiley, so everybody was calling me the mother, because like every time there was a situation, I would like take the lead, and I always had everything that everybody needs. I would walk with medicine, or I would have zip ties if somebody's bag broke. Really a mess. But it's just that I had that experience of traveling and having kids around to know that, you just need certain things when you're traveling. So I said to my Mexican counterpart, I'm an accidental leader, because I don't mean to lead anybody or mean to lead anything that we're doing. But because I have the experience and the knowledge, it comes naturally for me to take charge. But then if they never followed, what I was doing, or they didn't think that I was that what I was doing was making sense, then there really would not have been that situation or position for me to take the leadership role. So it's a very, I think, full circle situation, and not in any way linear. So
Mhm.
that's my thoughts on
Mhm. Thank you. Devon, thanks for joining us. What did you gather from all of this? Devon? All right, let's move on. Janelle, what about you?
I really appreciated this forum so far. I give thought to herd culture and crowd culture, which is something I usually view as negative, but the video definitely helped to change my perspective of the way people catch on and the way that initiatives are born, and that electricity is given to an idea because it's public, because of the way that people follow, even in our day-to-day lives, when we think about work and when we think about our different ventures that we have, and the way that it's so important to train the first or the second person that comes on board, because they're really the ones you're going to take the culture to the rest who are going to eventually come on board. So I really enjoyed the sharing that was a part of this, the knowledge and wisdom that was given by, more veterans in the entrepreneur business that are on this call. And thank you for sending this to me.
Veterans is such a nice word.
That one was for you, Vishnu.
Thank you. Me and Selwyn.
Yeah, I haven't seen Selwyn grow a full beard like this before and let the grays go free. I'm like, I'm loving it.
I actually toned it down, shaved it down this afternoon,
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
Yeah.
looks good.
Thank you. Thank you. Vishnu, you see, so there's promise, right?
Yeah.
And my brother Miguel, sorry for putting you on the spot, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm here.
Any thoughts?
I like the video. I was trying to think of a practical application I could refer to, and I wanted to ask Vishnu if Keon would be his the follow in this scenario for him. Would it be Vishnu?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he had a lot of faith in the idea, and it's something he was looking for.
Yeah, I was trying to see a practical application where this is actually something I've seen happen before, and in Vishnu's case, Keon would have been that follow, and then everybody just ended up following him. And I think I've noticed the entire trend. I just need to find my followers soon. I gotta stop using my wife and find an actual follower. Right, TV? I'm my wife's follower.
We all follow. We all follow. I guess if Devon, if you're there and you want to say something, now's the time. I'd like to wrap this up a little. Um, I think, first of all, Vishnu, thank you for hosting and sharing the link. Really appreciate this. This is our commencement meetup. For some time now, I've been hearing suggestions that we need forums like this where we can get to know each other better, strengthen our relationships and, create opportunities to collaborate more and share more and so on. And so I think this is a good start.
I think
Vishnu, I've learned a lot. I zeroed
hi,
in
hello.
on, oh, hi, Tiffon.
Hi,
You want
Selwyn.
to,
So hi, good night, everyone. So I don't know what is going on with my internet. This thing is really buffing. So the video, it was just clumsy right through. So I didn't really get to see the video. So but I will
I'll
take a
send you the
look at
link.
it. But
I'll send you the link.
thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to have this conversation, which was long overdue. And I really hope and look forward to something else like this again.
Thank you, Tiffon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so again, thank you very much for hosting this, Vishnu, and dropping these nuggets. One of my biggest takeaway from this, well, there are several, the importance of investing and not spending, time being a very valuable asset. That was very, very important. And Eldon expanded on something that you said about, you know, giving one thing 100%. I'm like Eldon, my mind, and I'm sure Vishnu, you're like this, where we think about it, we process a lot of things in parallel, and so it takes a lot of effort and discipline to shift from that paradigm and start thinking of one thing at a time and giving it your full attention. And I'm learning, and I find that it is very productive doing that. I want to thank everybody for joining in. This is a start, brand new to the movement. So I was glad to see the word movement in the video. But my last point on this is that what I really, really like about that video is that the follower, and EV touched on this a little bit, the follower is critical. The follower is very important. And it's a shift. It will take a shift in mindset for people to grasp that, for the masses to grasp that and really embrace it. But imagine if you can if people would embrace that concept that um, there is power, there's empowerment rather in following. I think there'll be less emphasis on, me, I want to be the leader, I want to be the leader. They didn't say that the leader is not important, because as you said, Vishnu, you need the crazies, for the lack of a better word, the, the folks who think of there. But then there is that guy or girl that needs to follow, and then it starts that chain reaction. So thank you.
Welcome, and thanks for everyone for joining in. And again, I think it must be good for the follower as well. I think that's probably the lesson that I wanted to, maybe if I could leave a last lesson, is that whatever is presented by the leader must be good for the follower. The follower must enjoy it. It must be aligned, because that's the only way it spreads. It's the only way it spreads. And it's a good way as well for leaders to test to see if what they are putting out there is resonating with people, if it's good for them. But it must be good for them. Their life must be positively impacted. Thank you very much. A lot of fun doing this.
Guys, enjoy the forum tonight. Hope to see it more often.
Well, next month, right, Vishnu? We try to start off with once a month, and then we'll see if we can do twice. But next month.
Yeah, pick a date, and if you can have a volunteer to to really share with us as well, I think that would be fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, and have a good
See you
night.
guys.